All right, everyone. Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel. I'm joined by Daniel Starkin, and we got lots to talk about tonight. The Dodgers fall in Game 2 of the World Series, 6-4 to the Tampa Bay Rays. We talk a lot about the offense. The offense wasn't the problem tonight. There's lots of other issues for the Dodgers. They go with a straight bullpen game. They eventually get to Blake Snell, but they still come up short. So we appreciate you joining us, as always. We got Periscope back up and working tonight, so we're excited about that. But just the same as last night, we're going to do a hat giveaway. So start thinking about your headlines here. We've got lots to talk about before we get there. Daniel, I'm just going to ask the obvious question that obvious to me, and I'm curious to get your answer as we react. How badly do you think the Dodgers wanted to win today? And when I say the Dodgers, I don't mean the players. I mean, I look at the game plan, the decisions made from a pitching perspective, and I'm trying not to overreact, but it felt like the Dodgers punted Game 2 today.
I don't know if I would go that far. I mean, I think a lot of the pitching decisions later in the game was, based on the fact that they were losing. So the two questionable ones are Gonsolin and May, and neither of them look good tonight. That's that's what it is. We saw how great they were in the regular season. It's been a struggle this postseason, but like every time you think, all right, like now they got the nerves out of the way, maybe they'll be better tonight. But that hasn't been the case so far. They weren't able to get any length out of either of those guys, which they probably were hoping to at least get a few, like 2 or 3 innings out of each of them. That didn't happen. So, I mean, it was unfortunate. So some of the pitching changes were questionable for sure. But I mean, I don't fault them for resting like the super high leverage guys when you're trailing. And as we saw, even the low leverage guys that they pitched late, like Alex Wood and Jake McGee, they got the job done. So I don't think that was the issue. It was just, for me, it was mainly just Dustin May.
To me, what's shocking, the reason I say punt, is if I told you before the game, the Dodgers are going to use 7 pitchers, all treated as relief pitchers. They're going to be in a game in which they lose by 2 runs, and none of their 4 best relievers pitch on the day before an off day. I don't know how you justify that. I mean, yeah, I get that they're trailing, but this game, it may have been out of hand at 5-0, but why did it ever get to 5-0? Dustin May comes in for 1 out and gets absolutely shelled. And what do? They send him back out there the next inning for 2 more runs. So 5-0 there is the only time it was really out of reach. They get back to 5-2, and from there it's either a 3-run or a 2-run game basically the rest of the game. So for me, to your point, Alex Wood, Jake McGee kind of get the job done. Not kind of, they get the job done. No runs in the last 3 innings, but it's just frustrating to me. It just felt like the bats were there. I mean, to score 4 runs in a game started by Blake Snell, that should be a recipe for at least being competitive. I get that in a bullpen game, you're probably not expecting an absolutely dominant pitching performance, but man, I just can't get past 7 pitchers, all treated as relievers, and none of your 4 best. And when I say your 4 best, Treinen, Jansen, Baez, and Gratterall, I know Baez pitched last night, but none of those other guys have pitched in 3 days, and they have an off day tomorrow. So I just don't understand what, people at Twitter like, hey, they're saving the bullpen, they're saving arms. I guess you could say, hey, they don't want the Rays to get a chance to look at them. I get it, but I mean, this game was within reach. They were down by 2 in the 8th inning with a runner on second and nobody out. So it's not like this game was ever out of reach, and to continually put it in jeopardy by throwing out Dylan Floro and Dustin May and Joe Kelly for serious outs. I don't know. I just can't get over it.
I mean, I think the valid point you made, or I'm trying to find a reason why.
No, I hear you.
Guys, right? And I guess the valid point is that, they didn't want the Rays hitters to get a look at some of our main guys. We've talked about how we want the Dodgers to get looks at the Rays main guys because it helps out later in the series. So that's really all I could think of. Like, we have an off day tomorrow, so it's not really a rest issue. Like, Kenley and Treinen specifically and Gratterall, all 3 of those guys hadn't pitched since Game 7, so they had 2 days off. So I don't think it's a rest issue. I think the only valid reason that I could think of is that they didn't want the Rays to see their main guys.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know how big of a deal that makes. But I mean, it's just unfortunate. The Rays scored all their runs early, right? So I mean, it wasn't the late decisions that cost the Dodgers this game. It was the early ones, and ideally, Gonsolin gives them a little more length. Um, I mean, he got a quick hook, which may or may not have been the right move, but at that point, at least you keep yourself in the game there. And Floro came in and got the job done thanks to some nice defense and some bad base running
Yeah.
by the Rays. But I mean, for me, it just comes down to Dustin May looks really bad. Like you said, he probably should have been taken out after that first inning. I mean, he came out in the second and got two quick outs, albeit on hard hit balls. So at that point, then he gives up like a single or whatever it was, and you're like, all right, maybe he could get one more out, but then he gives up the home run, and the game's essentially lost at that point, or at least it felt like it was. So I mean, it's just unfortunate. I don't know what the deal is with Gonsolin and May, but at this point, I don't know if we'll see them again in this series. Definitely not in any sort of leverage type spots.
Yeah, and there's two there. I want to get back to Gonsolin in a moment because I have some questions about that. But let's talk about Dustin May. I'll be honest and say this is a guy who statistically has been good but not great all season. And yet the Dodgers, and he's a rookie, and the Dodgers have been treating him as if he's this proven weapon. So his numbers coming into the game were 8 innings pitched, 13 base runners. I don't get it. I mean, like Gonzalez, and that was coming in, that was before he went back out there for the 5th. So then he gives up a single and a home run. So 8 innings pitched with about 15 base runners is his final line. So Gonzalez gets a walk, 2 outs. May comes in with a runner on first and 2 outs, gives up a single and a 2-out double to the bottom of the lineup, then gets a ground out. It was hit hard. And they bring him back out. He gives up a single and another. I'm trying to understand. I've heard people ask this question, why the Dodgers seem to treat Dustin May as if he's this like Brusdar Gratterall elite weapon where he just hasn't been it. And not to mention, to be fair to Gonsolin and May, these guys are being put in unbelievably difficult situations to take a guy all season and say you're going to pitch every 5th day, and then to get to the playoffs and basically say, hey, we're going to throw you on 2 days rest and 40 pitches one day and 25 the next. And I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses for May. I think this is ultimately a decision the Dodgers front office made. But if the plan for tonight was a bullpen game, I just don't understand why you start out with Gonsolin and only let him get 4 outs. Now, he wasn't perfect, but he wasn't terrible either. Some people are like, hey, well, they just wanted to get the all-lefty lineup in there. Okay, well, guess who comes out of the bullpen? Floro, and then Alex Wood doesn't come in until the 7th. So it's not like they really maximized by following up by pounding lefties against the lineup. Just a lot of confusing decisions to me. So I guess I'll ask the question of your thoughts on Gonsolin. Why start Gonsolin if the leash was going to be so short?
I mean, I think the plan was to start him, but he just pitched in game 7.
Yeah.
So I don't think he was ever going to give them more than maybe 3 innings. Like if he went out and looked, had 3 clean innings, kept his pitch count down, maybe like 45 pitches or so. But I mean, when he comes out in the first inning, he didn't look good. He gave up the home run. He's missing spots. He just didn't look good. So when the plan is for him to go 2 or 3 innings and he doesn't look good, at that point, you might as well just give him the quick hook and keep the deficit at 1-0. It's a bullpen game anyways. You're going to be using a lot of guys. So it wasn't a true start for Gonsolin.
Yeah.
So it's not the type of thing where, you let him work through it and hope, by the 3rd or 4th inning, he finds his form. He was never getting past the 3rd inning regardless, in my opinion. So I honestly didn't mind the quick hook on Gonsolin. I wish they did the same thing with May. The problem for me was the May innings. They left him in too long when he clearly didn't have it. I don't know why they don't have it. I don't know if it's nerves. I don't know, like you said, if it's the weird schedule. Like there were starters all year. Now they're relievers throwing every couple days. I don't know how, like, part of the schedule is unavoidable, right? Like the Dodgers swept the first 2 series, so there weren't a whole lot of innings to go around. And then, just the schedule with the off days is weird. So some of that's unavoidable, but at the same time, I feel like you want to put your young pitchers in, the best position to succeed. And it's pretty clear the Dodgers haven't done that because those 2 guys have not succeeded at all in pretty much any of their outings. Gonsolin looked pretty good in his first start, but, not great. So it was just some weird decisions, but at the end of the day, the Dodgers were still in the game, and they made it close, which is good. They ended up making the Rays use their high leverage guys, which was good to get a look at those guys. So, I mean, yes, it's a loss, but I don't think it's a loss where we're sitting here super defeated thinking, they're going to lose this series. It wasn't that type of loss
Yeah.
for me.
I guess I'm with you. Like I came into this game saying, hey, if the Dodgers win this series is going to be just
Yeah.
about wrapped up. If they lose,
Yeah.
so be it. This is a game the Rays needed far more. I guess I just can't get, like, if you know Gonsolin's not going to give you length, why would you put him out there? Like this, he's not, like, you have so many guys in the bullpen,
Yeah.
and you have
That's a fair question.
a rest day tomorrow. Like I said, they didn't use any of their didn't use any of their 4 best relief pitchers in this game. And Victor Gonzalez was one of them. He only gave up, he only threw a handful of pitches. Victor Gonzalez threw 10 pitches. So the one guy who's one of your best relievers threw 10. Like, this is the World Series with a rest day tomorrow. Like, we shouldn't be thinking about, like, oh, well, we want to get matchups here, or we need to save our guys so they don't look. It's like, it's freaking game 2 of the World Series. Like, if you're going to go bullpen game, give me Gratterall in inning number 1, and give me Victor Gonzalez in inning number 2, and give me Trinan in 3 and 4, and then see what happens. And if you're down 6-0 at that point, then bring in Alex Wood. But, like, to throw out those guys to start, to say, hey, we're going to Gonsolin, Floro, and I like Floro, Gonzalez, May, Kelly, and Wood, and see what happens. It's like, this felt like a game that happened in the middle of August, like a meaningless Tuesday night game where you're trying, it's like, we do know we're in the World Series, right? Like, we're not trying to take this thing for granted. So I'm trying not to overreact, but like, as a Dodger fan that so desperately wants them to win the World Series, to see a game in which all of, like, so many pitching decisions are just baffling to me, that I'm just saying, like, we can't take this for granted. Like, we need urgency. The bats are the thing we've been worried about. They scored 4 runs. We had a runner on second with nobody outs. Like, the bats weren't perfect, but they were good enough. And I just thought the pitching decisions, it wasn't even necessarily the pitchers, as you pointed out. I like Jake McGee. He was good. Alex Wood looked pretty good. But even there were little things, like, it was like Alex Wood would get into trouble and there was nobody coming in behind him. Jake McGee put 2 runners on first and second with 2 outs. Yes, he gets out of it, but it's like, this is the World Series. Like, why are we, it's a 2-run game. We shouldn't just be operating under the assumption that, like, if they score another run, no big deal. Like, if Kenley Jansen had to come in and get 1 out, would we have overworked him because he has a rest day tomorrow? Like, there were just so many, it was like every little thing where it's like, the urgency of, they have runners on first and second and 2 outs, and they're nobody even warming up in the bullpen for all we know. So I don't know. I'll try and change the subject because the pitching stuff frustrates me, and I recognize I'm asking questions that nobody has answers to.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel.
But, like, that to me is like, this is the World Series. I didn't feel like we treated this like a World Series game. So let's flip to the other side. Let's look at the bats, because there was some encouragement, I think, as far as the Dodger offense goes. In a lot of ways, it wasn't perfect, but the Dodgers get 4 runs. Yes, they only have 5 hits. They did draw 4 walks against Blake Snell. So Blake Snell's their best pitcher. You put 6 guys on in 4 2/3 and score 2 runs. I mean, I think we all would have killed for that at the beginning of today. They bring in Nick Anderson, who's one of their best relievers. You get to him. They bring in Fairbanks, who's one of their best relievers. You get to him, and you still lose. It's a pretty fascinating thing. But offensively, some more home runs. Corey Seager gets 1. Chris Taylor gets 1. Will Smith gets 1. What did you see out of the offense today that you liked tonight, Daniel?
I mean, Blake Snell was on tonight.
Yeah.
Like, he's a former Cy Young winner. Obviously, that was a couple years ago, and he hasn't been as good since. But I mean, he brought his A game for the first 4 innings. Like, he was virtually untouchable. He was also getting some help from the home plate umpire. There were a ton of questionable calls tonight. But I mean, when a guy has, command of his slider the way he did with his fastball, that's a tough guy to hit. So I'll give the Dodgers some credit. Through 4 innings, he had a no-hitter going. We're sitting here thinking, oh, no, this is going to be a blowout. And to their credit, they battled, and they wound up getting him out of the game in that 5th inning. And they got, some valuable at-bats against the Rays bullpen. So I will give the offense some credit tonight. Obviously, they didn't get off to the best start. And then a couple of the late at-bats were not great. Like, Cody and Rios both just taking fastballs down the middle in big spots. That's obviously not what you want to see there. But I mean, they battled and fought to the last pitch. Corey Seager stayed hot, which was good to see, because that, he hadn't gotten any hits the first couple games until that last at bat. So it's good to see him stay hot and take that one out to center. But I mean, it wasn't the offense's best game, but they battled.
Yeah.
So I'll give them a little credit there.
Yeah, I mean, this was a game coming in. We knew this was the Rays' best pitcher. So again, like if you tell me they score 4 runs in this game, I'd like to think the Dodgers were competitive. But kind of as you pointed out, it never totally felt competitive. They were down 5-0. They cut it to 5-2. They go down 6-2. They come back to 6-3. They get it to 6-4 with the runner on second, and then they just leave Justin Turner there. Turner's been an odd one. I mean, defensively, he hasn't been as perfect as you'd like to see. Offensively, when those guys come in throwing 100 miles an hour, it's kind of a mess for him. And then you even have, I mean, like it ended up not mattering, but he's on second base. There's a fly out to fairly deep right field. And Turner, I mean, isn't even threatening to be able to tag up on that play. It was a great throw, so I think he would have been toast. It was probably a good decision, but it's just sort of like you get to these points where I'm not really sure what you're seeing. I mean, to have him and Muncy at 3 and 4 in the middle of the lineup, and you say, okay, Muncy, you're praying for a walk every time he's up, basically, and Turner, kind of the same. It's sort of an interesting dilemma the Dodgers are in. Last night we had a good game from Mookie Betts. That goes backwards. He's 0 for 3. Didn't really look comfortable at the plate. Good game from Max Muncy last night. He's 0 for 3. Bellinger 0 for 3. Pollock was a mess, 0 for 2. Rios 0 for 2. Kike 0 for 1. Jock 0 for 1. Barnes 0 for 1. Chris Taylor 1 for 4 with the 2 home runs and then struck out 3 other times. So 15 strikeouts for the Dodgers tonight. A pretty disappointing number, despite how good the Rays are. And this was kind of what we see, right? Yes, you get 2 runs off Blake Snell, but you only get 2 runs the rest of the game because the Rays bullpen looked really good. Yes, they got to see some of those high leverage arms. We'll see if that kind of pays off. I mean, it wasn't surprising what these guys were doing. They're just going to get in there and throw 100 miles an hour and see if you can hit it. So, as you were saying, you made it seem like nothing changes for you in the series after tonight's game. Is that fair?
That's fair. And the reason I'm still confident is because, look, we got Walker Buehler going in game 3.
Yeah.
And Dave Roberts just announced Julio Urias is pitching game 4. So, I mean, I was glad that one thing I was glad about was that they stayed away from Julio tonight. Once that game kind of got away, I don't think there was a reason to pitch him. Now let's save him for game 4. He'll start that game on extra rest, which will be good. And then we got Kershaw again in game 5. So I feel really good about how the Dodgers stack up pitching wise moving forward. Like we just talked about, they still have all their top guys that haven't pitched yet, so they'll be fresh. So yeah, I still feel really good. Obviously, Charlie Morton's a really good pitcher. The Rays got going in game 3, but after that, what are they doing in game 4?
Yeah.
And then, game 5, we get Glasnow again, which I feel pretty comfortable about that. So, I mean, I think the Dodgers pitching is in a much better spot than the Rays right now. And obviously, I'm taking the Dodgers lineup over the Rays' lineup, every day of the week.
Any concerns for you? Brandon Lau, kind of the best hitter the Rays had all regular season. He gets going tonight with 2 home runs. Does that sort of move the needle at all for you?
I mean, it's a little bit concerning. He was their best player in the regular season, and he had been pretty much, a 0 this whole postseason. He was batting like 100. So you'd rather keep that guy quiet. Sometimes it only takes one to get a guy going, and that's what we saw. He hit one, and then he came up and hit another one. So, I mean, that's obviously not the best news in the world, but there's no one else in that Rays lineup that's really, a threat every at bat other than him and Arozarena, who also hasn't really done a whole lot this series.
Yeah, somebody in the chat asked what Morton likes to throw. Just doing his quick search, he's a curveball with a knuckle curve grip, 4-seam fastball that touches 94, and a 2-seam sinker as well. Kind of touches a slider and a splitter, but it's the nasty curveball and the 94-mile-an-hour fastball that'll really get you with Morton. So, I mean, 94-mile-an-hour fastball. The Dodgers love to hit fastballs, and it kind of in the World Series, it gets to these places where it's like, you just sort of throw darts. If the guy's curveball's not on, that becomes a big problem against a team like the Dodgers. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Well, let's get to headlines. Let's get to headlines for the Dodgers tonight. If you're new or if you're just joining, if you weren't here last night, basically the way the competition works is we're going to give away a hat every night post-game this week. And the plan is really simple. You've got to be subscribed to our YouTube channel. And you've got to follow us either on Facebook or on Twitter, and that piece is just a matter of so you can contact us, basically send us a message. And so the rule is we just want to hear a headline. For what headline would you do if you were writing a story about this game? For me, I mean, if I was just reacting to it, I would say Dave Roberts punts on game 2. Dodgers look ahead to rest the series. I mean, I recognize that might feel like an overreaction, but I can't hide my frustration. It didn't feel like they ever wanted to give this team a chance. They were down 3-0 after Dustin May came out. They easily could have made a decision right there whether or not they wanted to go sort of make a run at this or not make a run at this. They didn't use any of their top guys outside of Baez last night. We assumed because they would need to be available today. It just didn't seem like they had any intention of using them. So I'd say Dodgers punt on game 2. That'd be for me. But let's look at headlines. Daniel, any sort of headline? What theme would you go with, I guess, if you were going with a headline?
I'm going something like Mayday, Mayday.
Yeah, fair enough.
Dodgers, fall apart in game 2. I don't know, something like that.
Dodgers redhead falls apart.
Yeah, to me, Dustin May was, the worst part of this game, I'd say, or like the most costly part. He just didn't have it tonight. He can't just be throwing balls down the middle expecting to get outs, especially with 0-2 counts or 1-2 counts. That's just not going to get it done at this level.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what lost in this game. So something surrounding Dustin May would be the headline.
Well, here you go. Adam's got Dustin May be overrated by Dave Roberts. We've got Roberts trades game 2 for game 3 arms. Same old Roberts. Joe Buck talks about the sweet smell of Dustin May's hair. That was kind of weird. The obsession that Joe Buck has with the hair is a little uncomfortable, I'll admit. Yeah. But yeah, let's see. May pitching like it's May. There you go. Looks like he's spring training. I like that one. It's not bad. Unfortunately, it's kind of depressing when you think about it, but don't think too hard about it, I guess. Let's see. We'll see if we get anybody else. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I don't think it's worth overreacting. I think this was a game that if you told me before the Dodgers lose 6-4, I'd probably say, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like I said, it was just sort of the execution of it that I think got me frustrated. So let's see if we had anybody on Twitter sending us in some headlines. Kind of a low output. Last night we got about a lot. Dodgers bats face a hard Snell. All right, I see that. Dodgers managed this game as a throwaway looking to game 3. Strike zone different for both teams. I actually thought the strike zone was terrible. The umpire was terrible. I mean, I started following the umpire tracker. It's been pretty interesting. I don't know how accurate it is, but it throws numbers at it. I mean, there were lots. I was pissed a couple times. I thought there was a big inning at the beginning when Will Smith had a 2-0 count, two balls called strikes, and that basically would have ended up loading the bases with nobody outs. Instead, you end up with 2 guys on and 1 out. It's a big difference, but I actually thought he was pretty terrible both directions. I mean, Joe Kelly, with the run that he ended up giving up, should have been a strikeout. I thought the umpire was pretty bad both ways, maybe more so to the Dodgers, but I don't think it was unique to the Dodgers. So we'll see. Let's see. Babe, some more headlines here. Snell smells. Let's see. Roberts felt sorry for Rays and Dave them the game. Some of these I don't even understand. Yeah, we got. You don't have to resend if you sent him once. Ump smells Snell's balls. That's one. I'm not that like. I guess they just wanted to make a balls joke there. Dodgers holding back in game 2. MLB forces game 5. Yeah, I don't know. I felt like last night we had a really good set of headlines here. Let me go back through and see if there's any that jump out.
There are a couple May ones that I thought were pretty good.
Dustin May be overrated. That was one. Let's see. Got to scroll back up here. People are sending him in multiple times. May pitching like it's May. That was kind of the other one. Joe Buck talking about the sweet smell. Rays taking pointers from Astros. I'm not really sure. I don't think there was any cheating going on tonight. Not that I know. Not that I know of.
Someone tweeted at me that they were hearing whistling and that they were paranoid about the tweet. Cheating.
Seriously?
I didn't notice it, but someone tweeted me that.
Wow. That'd be something. I mean, maybe just to get in their head. Maybe it's like a fan or something. I mean, I feel like Joe Buck is an idiot. Sergio wants that as his headline. Joe Buck is an idiot. Yeah, that was funny. Someone pointed out the Kershaw interview when he's like interviewing Kershaw, and Kershaw's like, "Hey, they're changing pictures here. Do you need to tell the people about this?" And Joe Buck just asked him the question anyways. That was a good. Michael says he did hear whistling, so there you go. Maybe that's who's tweeting at you. What do you think? Dustin May be overrated by Dave Roberts?
I like that. That was the best one for me.
Okay, that's what we'll go with. Dustin. Adam, I'm not going to try and pronounce your last name on YouTube. But you're our winner for tonight. We got a hat coming your way. So find either the Dodger Blue account on Twitter or on Facebook and send us a direct message. If you have any trouble, last night there was a little trouble, you could tweet at me or you could tweet at Daniel as well. So let's look ahead to Game 3. Obviously, we've got an off day tomorrow. Game 3, Walker Buehler on the mound. As we've discussed, Daniel, the Dodgers have a full rested bullpen for Game number 3. Ironically, for a game in which your best pitcher's on the mound, and so you're hoping that you need as little of your bullpen as possible. But I digress. Game 3, Charlie Morton's been good. I mean, Charlie Morton has like a .5 ERA in the playoffs so far this year.
Yeah.
What are you expecting? Buehler's on 6 days rest. I mean, we've seen sort of the ups and downs of Buehler. I don't think he's been great by any stretch of the imagination at any point this postseason. What's the reason for optimism? Is it just, hey, he's starting to get into a rhythm? This is his 4th postseason start. This is probably the most consistent action he's gotten all year, so maybe he just starts to settle in.
Yeah, I mean, he was great in his last start, so there's your first reason for optimism. We saw, Walker Buehler, not the, the blister struggling Walker Buehler we saw in his first couple. So he looked great in his last start. He was throwing, really hard. He's got an extra day of rest now. So that gives him some more time to, heal up that blister. So, I mean, I'm expecting Walker Buehler to be Walker Buehler. That's the main reason I'm optimistic. Charlie Morton's a great pitcher, too. He's a big game pitcher. He's come through great in the postseason. But I think the Rays have shown that they have a short leash with him. So he's probably only going to go, 2 times through the order. So if they can make him work and get into that bullpen early, I think the offense is going to score some more runs. We know the Dodgers hit better against righties than lefties, so they already have that going for them.
Yeah.
We'll get the best lineup in there, which is a good thing. And like we talked about, the bullpen is now fully rested. We got all our main guys backing up Buehler. So, it could be Buehler for 6, Trinan, Gratterall, Kenley, or there's a day off before that as well. So, Victor Gonzalez could be back in the mix. Pedro Baez could be in the mix. So, I mean, the Dodgers pen is well rested right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, weird to say coming off a straight up bullpen game.
Yeah.
But it's true. No one's worked a ton. And I feel like we're getting to the point now where we know who we could trust and who we can't. Tony Gonsolin and Dustin May are probably off the we could trust them list now. They've had too many bad outings to trot them back out there again. So, I mean, I'm still feeling good. We got Game 3, Walker Buehler, Game 4, Julio, and then Game 5, Kershaw, which is, you can't ask for any better than that.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying the Dodgers need to win 3 more games. You're going to get Kershaw once and Buehler twice, probably. And so,
on normal best too.
Yeah, and not to mention Urias in Game 4. So you're going to have a pitching advantage for sure in Game 4. You'd like to think you've got probably a slight pitching advantage, at least in Game 3. And then you're back to, Kershaw versus Glasnow, which I think you feel good about after Game 1. Game 6 will be interesting because the one thing you can say about Game 6 is whether it's Gonsolin or whether it's May, if you want to go to a starter, those guys could theoretically be on full rest for Game 6. As you said, Buehler was better. I mean, I remember tweeting before Buehler's last start, hey, the key to this game is going to be, can he control the walks? He had set a career high in walks back-to-back games, 0 walks in his last outing. The flip side is he gave up 7 hits, but he was able to work himself out of trouble, not necessarily striking guys out like we'd like to see. 6 strikeouts in 6 innings is good, not great. So, but I do think there's something about, I mean, this is a guy who has not pitched consistently all season, and now he is. Like, now this is his 4th start. Yes, there's an extra day off here and there, but it's not like it's pitching twice and then missing a start and pitching, so I think there's something to that. I think, again, Buehler throws the fastball. The Rays are one of the worst fastball hitting teams, so he should be able to just rear back and throw fastball after fastball after fastball and get these guys out. In some ways, maybe the day off helps the Dodgers a little bit with the Rays bats maybe starting to get going tonight. You get a little day off. Don't let those guys get into a rhythm. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, you would like to say you don't have to use all your arms in Game 3. Then you've got back-to-back games in Game 4 and 5. So that's where you're going to need the bullpen arms. But it'll be really interesting to see how this one plays out moving forward. Morton has a lower ERA, but Buehler has the advantage. We're being accused of being homers for thinking Walker Buehler is better than Charlie Morton, but that's an accusation I'm willing to take. If you have issue with thinking Buehler is better than Morton, Yes,
Yeah, a lower ERA, what? Like this
this
postseason and like
postseason.
3 or 4 starts?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not really looking at ERA of 3 starts, sorry.
Yeah. 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 I mean, hey, Charlie Morton's got fans. Good for him.
I mean, Charlie Morton's good. We're not sitting here saying he's trash or anything, but I mean, Walker Buehler, we have no reason to not have complete confidence in that guy. He's come up big every time, they've needed him to in the postseason since literally his rookie year.
Daniel, if you had to guess what Charlie Morton's regular season ERA this year was, what do you think it would be? This is for my friend.
I don't have my fantasy team, so I know it wasn't that good. I know that.
For our friend Andy Martinez, it was 4.74 this year. So there you go. Yes, we do have Instagram, Adam. You can send us a message on Instagram, DodgerBlue1958. That works as well. We've had trouble, people having trouble finding direct messages. I haven't really looked, but I thought maybe we'll have to see how that works if the account's got them turned off or something like that. We'll look into it.
Yeah,
but
I don't know how that works exactly.
But yeah, we'll see. Let's do this. I mean, let's end. We were both very wrong, as usual, on our predictions last night for today's game. Game 3, Walker Buehler versus Charlie Morton. I really think, I keep saying I think Dodger pitching's going to be good. I feel somewhat vindicated because I don't think they've used the pitchers that I was expecting to today. But I think we're going to get a low-scoring game. I think Buehler's going to throw a lot of fastballs. I think he's going to give them his best start of the season. And so I'm going to say 1 run is what the Rays score. And I think Charlie Morton shuts the Dodgers down. I'm thinking 4-1. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair, a lot of rested bullpen arms. So I'm going to say 4-1 Dodgers on Friday night.
Yeah, I was thinking low scoring too. We got 2 really good pitchers on the mound, two big game pitchers. So I'm gonna go 5-2 Dodgers. I think maybe they get a couple runs early and then add a couple more late. So yeah, I'm going 5-2 Dodgers. I think Walker Buehler's gonna be really good. 6 innings, 1 run for Walker Buehler.
Okay, Michael Nelson's got 4-1 Dodgers. Grayson's got Buehler and Morton 7 shutout innings each. Dodgers win 2-1. Kevin Herrera 1-0. I'm just gonna say 2-1 or 1-0. I hope you're wrong because I can't handle the stress of a game like that.
Those are the most stressful games by far.
Yeah, I want the Dodgers to just jump out to a 5-0 lead and just nurse it. I mean, like if you're a Rays fan, you probably weren't ever super stressed out. I don't think the Dodgers, aside from when Turner was on second, it's not like they ever had the tying run seriously threatening. So kind of a low key game there, but. Yeah, I mean, Andy asked how many times is Buehler going to get, sort of get out of jams and can the luck continue? It's unique. I mean, is it luck when he just sort of bears down and starts throwing 100 miles an hour by guys?
We saw against the Braves. I don't know how you could call that luck when he's just throwing it by every single guy.
Yeah, he was dialed in. So, well, Daniel and I, big surprise as a DodgerHeads host. We both think the Dodgers are going to win Game 3. We both expect big things out of Walker Buehler. In Game 3, and that sets the Dodgers up because if they can win Game 3, I think that's huge, knowing they have a massive advantage in Game 4. The 2 guys that most people thought the Rays might start in Game 4 both pitched a pretty sizable load and kind of got lit up in Game number 1. So maybe those guys come back in Game 4 on short rest. Maybe they just go straight bullpen game. But either way, you liked the Dodgers' odds there with Julio Urias pitching for the Dodgers. So we're getting questions about Dave Roberts. Let's not get into what happens if they win or lose this series. It's 1-1. There's lots of baseball in front of us, so we'll have plenty of time. We'll have plenty of time to address that. So, hey, we appreciate you joining us as always on DodgerHeads Live. We know this was a tough one. The Dodgers lose 6-4, and again, a game that never really felt like it was within reach necessarily. I mean, the score of only 2 runs. I don't know as a Dodger fan, it didn't feel like it was that close at any point tonight. So the Dodgers lose 6-4. The Rays tie up this World Series 1-1. They're back in action on Friday. Again, all these games start at 5 o'clock. So 5 o'clock on Friday. Slightly different times, like 5:08, 5:09. One of these might be 5:30 on Friday. I'm not sure, but somewhere in that ballpark. We will be here live post game. So check us out then. Dodger Blue on YouTube, Dodger Blue 1958 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All the coverage that you need. As always, we appreciate you joining us. Enjoy the rest of your night, and we will see you on Friday.